Hi there, welcome to Buy Now, Sell Now on ET. I'm Cheryl D'Souza, with me is Shrishti Sharma, and the big news flashing on the bottom of the screen that Supreme Court has taken cognizance of the Adani Hindenburg row and has gone ahead and actually formed a 5-member panel under the former retired Justice A.M. Sapre. We have Harish, who's been tracking this story very closely, on the phone line with us. Harish, good morning, and tell us what's the initial ruling from the Supreme Court.
Yes, in fact, Supreme Court Chief Justice Bench, D.Y. Chandrachud bench has formed a 5-member committee for the purpose of reviewing, improving, strengthening and making a very robust system out of the present regulatory mechanism in the financial sector, especially the share and security sector, and has formed a committee for that. That will be headed by retired Supreme Court Judge A.M. Sapre, and the members are senior experts from the field of international banking, share and the security sector, and also SEBI. They are O.P. Bhatt, Justice J.P. Devdar, K.V. Kamath, Nandan Nilekani, and Somashekar Sundaresan, an advocate, and the committee has been directed to submit its reports within 2 months in a sealed cover. So the court said it appears that SEBI is already seized into the investigation. The allegation and that have been made against Adani Group of Company. SEBI shall also investigate into whether there has been a violation of Section 19A, whether there was any manipulation of stock prices. SEBI shall conclude the investigation within 2 months and apprise the court. The Constitution, and also that the Constitutional Expert Committee does not, in fact, affect the SEBI's independent role being conducted. In order to protect the investors' interests, we are of the view that it is appropriate to constitute a committee headed by retired Supreme Court Judge A.M. Sapre, and the members will be O.P. Bhatt, Justice J.P. Devdar, Mr. K.V. Kamath, Somashekar Sundaran, and to be headed by Justice A.M. Sapre. Back to you.
Hi, Harish, for getting us the initial, what is the Supreme Court ruling in the Hindenburg versus Adani row. Remember, the Supreme Court has gone ahead and given the approval to form a panel of regulatory mechanism amid this Adani Hindenburg row. Also, former Justice A.M. Sapre will be heading the panel on regulatory mechanism, and Sapre panel will have to submit the report in a sealed cover in 2 months, is what the Supreme Court has asked. Also, the expert panel will be including O.P. Bhatt, K.V. Kamath, as well as Nandan Nilekani from the corporate arena. Also, the panel will look at steps to strengthen the frameworks and probe Adani row as well. So that's the latest that we are picking up with regards to what the Supreme Court had to say. Shrishti, so very big hearing coming in from the Supreme Court today. We were awaiting for the Supreme Court's verdict on this because you had a lot of petitions on the fact that an expert panel should be formed in order to take note of what has been happening. And that's exactly what the Supreme Court has done. Formed a 5-member committee headed by former Supreme Court Judge Justice A.M. Sapre. And also, you have a lot of other members from the corporate arena as well who will be part of the committee as well.
Well, yes, absolutely. A major decision coming in on this front. And look at the move on the Adani group of shares, Cheryl. All of these stocks have started reacting to this particular counter after a volatile session and after a recovery in the past 2 days that we have seen. For today, we have seen that Adani Enterprise particularly was down around 10%, and that stock saw a move of 3%, but now is drifting lower. So all of these stocks are started reacting, but let's move on and let's connect with the expert. We have onto the phone line, we are now connected with J.N. Gupta. Hi, very good morning, Mr. Gupta. What are we getting to here is that Supreme Court has now formed a 5-member panel to probe the Hindenburg row, and that will be headed by the former Supreme Court Justice A.M. Sapre. How do you see this? In the next 2 months, the committee or the panel has to submit its reports. What is your sense, and how should the proceedings will go from here on?
I think there is some confusion. The 2 months time has been given to SEBI for completing their probe and submit the report to Supreme Court in sealed cover, and this panel will oversee all that thing. That is what is my understanding. So let me first talk about the panel. The panel is extremely good, of eminent people who have reputation, but beyond reputation, they are all knowledgeable in the field from all possible sides, from the investor side, from the banking side, from the corporate side, from the legal side. So it is all a very good combination of the panel. The second thing is this, that it will bring end to the uncertainty. People will be knowing for good what is the truth as regards to price manipulation, if any, or shareholding structure. If at all, SEBI is able to get to the final beneficial owner. That is second. But I still do not have the details what is the remit for this committee. I don't think that this committee should get into or will get into that what should be the investment policy of the LIC or what should be the lending policy of the bankers, because this is not a case to be done by Supreme Court or by a panel, because every bank or every investment company is free to chalk out its own lending policy or investment policy in a transparent manner, subject to approval of their board or shareholders. So I don't think remit of this committee would ever extend to the demand that has been made by various quarters that LIC's investment should be monitored, the bank should not lend beyond 500 crore, it should be subjected to committee, all these things. I don't think this will be remit of this committee at all. But I am very good that it is positive for shareholders because it will bring an uncertainty to end. And in a stock market, the worst thing is uncertainty.
Morning, Mr. Gupta. Ajay also joining in this discussion. I just want to understand from you the way this committee is being structured. In your view, will it be working alongside SEBI's investigation? Will it be in addition to parallelly investigating the matter? Because it's being overseen by Supreme Court. And this is the judicial appointed team or committee, I would say. SEBI is doing its own investigation. How do you think both these agencies will work together?
See, again, I would say that unless until we see the detailed order that what has been the scope and remit of this committee, it will be foolhardy to comment on that. But I would ideally say that this committee will not be able to investigate. So investigation part will always remain with the SEBI. And that based on the investigation, SEBI will submit a report. That report would probably be vetted by this committee. And if any questions are to be asked to SEBI, this committee will be fully empowered to ask any question to SEBI or clarification. And based on their clarification, probably this committee will advise to the Supreme Court their own findings, whether they are in 100% agreement with SEBI finding or there is a difference of opinion, and what finally they feel. See, the important thing to know is this, that as of now, there is a report of Hindenburg. We all know that it is a motivated report. Now, a motivated report could be full truth or half truth or full lie. We do not know at this juncture. But this committee, none of them is a motivated person. None of them has to gain anything. Hindenburg has to gain from the loss that shareholders make. Here it is not the case. So the credibility of this committee, not only because of the people behind, but because of lack of motivation, is very strong.
Very good point, Mr. Gupta. You raised that it appears to be a motivated report and we don't know the proportion of truth versus facts over there or made up issues. We are also joined by Amit Nayak, Nayak and Nayak Company, and also Mr. H.P. Ranina would be joining us in moments from now. Amit, what do you make of the way the news has come? Supreme Court has appointed this really the committee making of some really biggest name in corporate India to investigate this matter?
So, I endorse what Mr. Gupta just said 2 minutes ago. First of all, it's a very, very welcome position because in our country, it's unfortunate that some allegations are made and some report is made and, value and is eroded over a period of time. So in my view, it's a step in the right direction. I think the more fundamental question is whether this is going to be a fact-finding committee, and it all depends on the detail of the order, or whether this is going to be a pure recommendatory committee. In my view, the role is of recommendation, but at the same time, they may want to have or may be exercising some powers. Of course, the regulator is never sort of divested of any of its powers. But here the regulator, in my view, may be under supervision. So therefore, while the role is recommendatory, there could be some fact-finding powers also that the committee may be delegated with, which may help because these are all sort of allegations which are all in thin air. And therefore, today the Supreme Court has taken cognizance of it. and responsible people, and I welcome this position, because you can't have such companies of such value where some allegations are made and value is destroyed over a period of time. So like I said, recommendatory role, but may have fact-finding powers according to me, which may be necessary for exercising right powers and supervisory powers. But the regulator obviously is never going to be divested of any of the powers, and our Indian regulators are very, very good. So therefore, in my view, they will have to work in tandem. That is the way I look at it. And I endorse what Mr. Gupta was saying hitherto before.
To note that, because there is a section of people who are wondering and questioning that, hoping that if it's not a case of judicial overreach and SEBI is, operational areas are not being encroached upon by the Supreme Court in any manner, but you are saying that they'll complement each other. Mr. Sriram Subramaniam of InGovern is also joining us. Sriram, thanks for joining this discussion. 2 months is the time Supreme Court has actually spoken about to probe, to ask SEBI to probe this entire thing. Do you think this is sufficient time? Because it appears to be a very complicated case.
I think 2 months should be sufficient enough time. The data points are easily collectible in that sense from brokers and from the exchanges and etc. But I'm at a overall level quite surprised that we have a Supreme Court ruling on the stock price action of a specific group of companies. That in a way it is very, very specific, and it is not reaching across the stock markets. It is not something which is impeding policy, etc. So this is a very, very strange, I would say, case in that sense. And that too, such a high power committee set up to investigate or to look into the stock price action of one set of group of companies.
You are questioning that perhaps was it required in the first place?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, you are.
Why was it required? And this will repeat time after time. I mean, tomorrow there will be some .com 2.2. There will be a...
But Amit, Sriram, Mr. Gupta, thanks very much for joining us and helping us analyze all the angles of this big news development. Supreme Court has formed a panel of high-powered corporate biggies to probe the Hindenburg matter. They will be working along with SEBI. The investigation should take 2 months. But there is a small section who is actually questioning, was it required in the first place to have a parallel inquiry from such big powered, like Sriram was saying, from InGovern. With that, guys, it's back to you.
Absolutely, Ajay. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Also taking our viewers through what does this mean for the entire community. This is the big news that we are picking up. Is the fact the Supreme Court has gone ahead and formed 5-member panel under which will be headed by former retired Justice A.M. Sapre. But on that note, we slip into a break on this edition of Buy Now, Sell Now. When we come back, we'll be back with all of your viewer queries. So don't go anywhere.
This is the big story developing here on ET now, that Supreme Court has set up a panel, in fact, for this Hindenburg probing, and the biggies of the corporate India will be part of the panel. So this matter actually needs much more examination. And we have someone who has seen these kind of issues for almost 4 decades here in India. And Mohan Das Pai is joining us to discuss. Sir, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time here on ET Now. We were quite curious to talk to you after seeing your tweet. You were saying that this is actually not a right decision in the direction. What are your thoughts, sir? Do you think that they will not be able to work together, both the agencies, the committee now and SEBI? What are your thoughts behind this?
You see, Parliament has set up SEBI 30 years ago to look into the markets and to regulate and develop the markets. There is a law passed by Parliament, and SEBI has done a great job in doing that very well. Now, in the Hindenburg issue, SEBI is investigating the matter. There is no evidence right now of any regulatory failure. There is no evidence, because evidence requires data and proof. SEBI has to complete its proof, give a report, and SEBI has to come to a conclusion. And after SEBI comes to a conclusion, the government of India, which has set up SEBI, which is monitoring SEBI, has to look at what amendments are required, or the SEBI expert committees have to look at amendments. And if then there is a failure, the Supreme Court gets ready to say that, look, we are protecting your fundamental rights, though I don't know what is the fundamental right the Supreme Court is trying to protect, and we will do something. This is very premature. Now you set up a committee under the retired judge. You have some eminent people, they're good people. And then SEBI is supposed to give them a report after 2 months. And they will look into the report. And what will they do? They'll recommend something. Now, is the Supreme Court going to pass a judgment saying all the recommendations should be implemented? They cannot do that because that is a part of the legislative process. Now, SEBI has expert committees looking into all issues, which consists of a wide range of stakeholders, much wider than this committee. What do? They listen to everybody, they discuss, debate, make recommendations. SEBI puts out the recommendation for public comments. So there's wide-varying consensus on what needs to be done. And the public and the investors in the market have a right to comment. And the comments are then taken into account by SEBI. And then SEBI revises what is done and goes to his board and then issues the regulations. Now, if this committee says, okay, some things have to be done, will they go for public consultation? Public consultation is part of the regulatory process for SEBI. Are they going to short-circuit it because it's set up by the Supreme Court? And it's very wrong by the Supreme Court to encroach on the domain of the executive when there is no proof of any regulatory failure. See, whenever there's a market failure, there has to be an inquiry. They have to go into data. Now, Hindenburg, a short seller, has said, oh, these are all the big things that you have done. Now, have they disclosed that? What is the truth behind this? SEBI has to get into it. They also said the stock price manipulation. SEBI has to look into manipulation because SEBI has got a very big surveillance department. They know who trades, what happens, etc. They'll get into it. They got all the data. They can get into it. Based on that, let SEBI do his job. Why are you hobbling SEBI by making it subject to a committee set up by the Supreme Court? SEBI is autonomous. If SEBI fails, and there's clear evidence of SEBI's failure after the report comes out, then the government has to step in. The government responsibility, not the Supreme Court responsibility. Supreme Court should not encroach. Then is the Supreme Court running the government? Is the Supreme Court running the financial system? I mean, these raises very big, deep issues. And I think it's very important for all of us as citizens to be aware of all these issues. See, we should never be under the executive domain of any courts because the courts cannot take day-to-day decisions. The courts have to opine on the law of the land as made by Parliament or the Constitution. Yes, Supreme Court is the supreme authority to interpret the Constitution, subject to the legislature amending the law to constitutional agreements, constitutional amendments. And of course, Supreme Court has come with this concept of basic structure, which all of us have to debate because it encroaches on the sovereign will of the people. Now, these are big issues. So I think it's very wrong for a committee to be set up, everything to be set up when there is no evidence of regulatory failure. Evidence only comes after an inquiry, people getting into data, coming out with a report. If Supreme Court to tell SEBI, please produce a report in 2 months, hand it over to government and ask the government to take action, and we will watch what action is taken, that's very fair. That's very fair.
Mr.
But you set
Pai,
up a committee, yeah.
Very good. You've raised very pertinent points. At least we could have perhaps been a little more patient for SEBI to come out with the report on outcome of the investigation and then perhaps appoint a panel to probe those outcomes.
Don't appoint a panel. Ask SEBI to recommend action for regulations.
Right.
And let Parliament debate it and pass the law. SEBI has full autonomy under the law to pass new regulations. SEBI can do it. SEBI has been doing it for 30 years. The market has not been functioning in a vacuum. We've gone through multiple crises in the markets, and SEBI has come out very successful in managing. Why are you encroaching autonomy of SEBI? SEBI is the expert body, not the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is not the expert body on the capital market. SEBI is the expert body. And SEBI has a very well-defined process of wide-range consultation, getting expert opinion, debating, putting papers out, etc., to create a consensus. You can't have somebody dictating to the market, this is what it has to be. Because
in fact, we are having this discussion. Right, Mr. Pai, we'll have to thank you on that. We are having this discussion on the day which is the SEBI chief completes first year in office. And you're not alone, sir. Even some of the other panelists just a while back kind of agree with what your point is. In government, Mr. Sriram was also saying that first we would have allowed them some more time to come out with the outcome of their probe, and then perhaps, if the need be, form another expert panel. But thank you very much for your time and explaining your thought process on this breaking news. Thank you very much, Mr. Pai. All right, guys, whatever's left of the show, take it forward.
Thank you so much, Ajay, for that. And let me take it forward by asking Mr. G. Chokalingam, who is joining on the show, along with Kunal, Bothra. Very good morning to both of you all. Thank you so much for waiting by. We had a breaking news to address. But Mr. Chokalingam, markets, what should retail investors do to make sure their wealth is protected?
Yeah, good question. Very tough time. You have a state elections, rate hike, inflation. Don't expect too much of wealth creation in this year or till 2024 elections. Therefore, what I would suggest is that park at least 50% of your equity corpus in top 250 stocks, including Nifty stocks. The balance 50% you can put it in a very high quality small and mid cap with a long term perspective. But let me tell you that always the global pain is a gain for India. So if the rate hike leads to correction in the global growth further, oil price is going to crash, and that's going to lift the Indian economy as well as the market. This is what happened, post Lehman crisis, also during Corona pandemic, and also in 2016. So I remain extremely bullish with a 12 to 18 months view, but for the next 12 months, there could be a lot of volatility with the downward bias.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chokalingam, for giving the advice to all the retail investors. But with this, viewers, it's time to slip into a short break, but don't go anywhere. We still have half of the show left, and we'll try to take as many queries as possible. So stay tuned. After come back, we'll get directly to all your stock-related queries. Welcome back to Buy Now Sell Now, a show where you get all your stock-related queries answered by the experts. Viewers, we are live on Twitter as well as YouTube, and you can also connect with us on the WhatsApp number flashing on your screen. So let's get started. And Kunal, coming to you for the first query that I have, that's coming from Nageshwar, and he's holding a call option of Bank Nifty March series for 9th March expiry, 40,800 call at a price of 240 rupees. Can you give your views on the risk reward of this one and the best profits and loss targets?
So I'm not sure of the exact price of the call option currently, but I think it's a good strategy where you should look to hold on. I think there is a meet of another 300 to 400 points upside for the Bank Nifty in the span of the next maybe few trading sessions. So I think it's a good strategy. I think you should look to hold on.
All right, the next query that I have is coming in from Richa, and she wants to know if Indian hotels and L&T are a good buy at current levels. It's a fresh buy. Do you concur with this view? Do you think it's a good bet right now, Kunal?
Well, yeah, I think Indian Hotels is specifically a very good buy at current levels. 300 approximately is a major support zone for the stock price, and I think out of the two, if you ask me, I think Indian Hotels is something which I would recommend to buy.
Okay, Mr. Chokalingam, coming to you for the next one. Vijay wants the view on Cipla, and is that a buy on the current levels for the next 2 to 3 years? Also, is Cipla expected to go further, if at all? So, is CIP will be a better option for him?
Dr. Reddy would be a better option after considering the observations received and the status of these two major plants of Cipla.
Let me take this query that I have from Satya, and Satya wants to know specifically on Nesco from you, Mr. Chokalingam. He wants to know if it's still a good buy, and also he wants to thank you for your recommendation on Zensar Tech because he's booked a good set of profits on that one.
Yeah, thank you. I thank him. On Nesco, before I give my view, I personally invested, my family, my company also. I may be wrong, but I still believe that it's a next generation wealth creating stock based on the cash valuation and land bank and management quality. So I would strongly recommend a buy, particularly now as the stock has come down a lot.
Chokalingam, coming to you for the next one once again. Amir has been holding shares of Tanfac Industries at a price of 1,016 rupees, currently at a loss. The stock is at 950. Should he hold on or average at the current levels? And his investment horizon is for the long term.
You can hold on, but I would not suggest averaging it because the stock has multiplied a lot, and chemical industry always known for a huge cyclical process along with the stock market. So therefore, you can hold on. and he can exit if he gets back his invested amount.
The next one is coming your way. This one is coming from Manish Raju, and he's saying that he has 100 shares of Varun Beverages purchased at 1160 rupees per share. He's noting the fact that you have been saying exit Varun Beverages, but given the fact the way how the summer season is panning out and also good quarterly earnings from Varun Beverages, do you think that it still recommends an exit? Have you changed your view on the charts?
No, not really. I would still believe that there's a lot of distribution which is happening into the stock price, and the recent correction and the bounce. I think the bounce has sort of tapered off for Varun Beverages. So I would still maintain the stance that it's a good strategy where you may look to book profits. In case if you're looking to hold on, then the only trailing stop loss which I would suggest would be around this 1275 mark. So in case if you decide to hold on, then 1275 would be a trailing stop loss which you can hold on to.
Okay, moving on, and Mr. Chokalingam, coming to you once again. Hamza is been holding shares of SBI, 170 shares at a price of 456. That's the average cost. She too is a long-term investor. So what will be your advice? Can she add more at current market price or hold on?
Yeah, certainly hold on, and if it falls further, one can add. The recent correction, it becomes attractive. The credit growth in the industry is now 15 to 17%, which is at a high record level, and SBI will be beneficiary of the same.
The next one is coming in from, just a second actually, yeah, Sri Kutan has 100 shares of SBI purchased at 445 rupees per share. His views for the long term, but he's wondering whether he should look to switch to HDFC Bank or ICICI Bank for better returns going forward. What's your view on this, Mr. Chokalingam, given the fact that SBI is now much above his buy price?
Certainly, if you ask me between SBI and HDFC Bank, I would favor HDFC Bank. In terms of the track record of growth, there is no match. And I believe semi-urban, semi-rural areas, HDFC Bank is going to do extremely well post this merger. So therefore, you can switch to HDFC Bank from SBI Bank.
Okay, Mr. Chokalingam, once again coming to you. Divya bought GIC 1 month back, but she's currently at a loss of 20%. So what to do next for this particular counter? And rather, will that be advisable to get into some of the fertilizer or chemical plays? Her investment horizon is for the next 1 year.
GIC, once the investor gets the principal, can come out of it, because last 3-4 years, PSU insurance companies are not able to maintain consistent solid growth. Rather, one can shift to something like HDFC Bank or Maruti or Bosch. I would suggest a large mid cap and large cap because I believe the market volatility will continue till the general election next year.
Taking the note of the flashes on the bottom of your screen, you have Gautam Adani, who's tweeted on the Supreme Court order where he's saying the Adani Group welcomes the order of the Honorable Supreme Court and it will bring a finality in a time-bound manner and truth will prevail. So that's the tweet coming in from Gautam Adani on the Supreme Court order. But let me go on with the queries then. And Santi wants to know on Privi Specialty Chemicals, holding from the levels of 920 rupees per share. Mr. Chokalingam, he wants to know if you have any future growth outlook on this particular counter, and also do you think there is a risk-reward opportunity in this company?
I don't think so. I looked at the valuation, still extremely stretched for this chemical company. So I would say if it's not making big losses, he can sell and exit the stock.
Okay, Kunal, coming to you for next one. Kalia Pune entered into Cummins 15 shares from a price of 1,615 rupees. Just 15-20 days back, she got into this particular counter. What will be your advice?
Well, I would suggest to hold on. The stock is going through a consolidation. The stock has not even tested its major support, which is around the 1550 mark, or I think 10 rupees below 1540 levels to be precise. That's the first or upper end of the gap for Cummins India. So I think it's a stock which is showing a lot of strength and still not giving into the support point. So I think it's a good sign. You should look to hold on to the stock. Near term wise, if the stock moves up higher, 1650 to 80 could be a target range for Cummins.
Okay, this one is coming in from Yogesh and he wants to know if it's good time to average Titan at current levels. He's holding at an average price of 2,512 rupees per share. Kunal?
Yeah, I think it's a good time to buy the stock, but I would still suggest that to buy it on 2 stages, one at current levels and the other would be assuming the stock retests the previous lows of sub 2,300.
Okay, so that's the advice coming in on Titan. But with this, viewers, it's time to slip into a short break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. You're watching BNSN on ET Now. Let me continue taking all of your stock-related queries. And this one is coming from Madhuri, and this one is for you, Kunal. Wants to know how's the chart for Mahindra CIE looking, because she's already making profit of about 30%. So she wants to know, is there any scope for further upside? If not, she wants to know what sort of exit target she should look at.
So indicators are not yet overbought. RSI is still at 75 on the weekly time frame, which is not too much of a extent in terms of an overbought nature. So I would suggest that you can continue to hold on. Maybe I think at best you can keep a trailing stop loss. 405 was the previous swing low, or midpoint of the previous swing low. You can keep that as a trailing stop loss.
Okay, moving on, and Mr. Chokalingam, coming to you. Shiva entered into Reliance at a price of 2,444 rupees, currently at a mild loss, but he wants to add more of this counter for the next 3 to 5 years. What will be your advice?
Exactly, I agree with his view. In fact, we came out with a report saying that Reliance industry will be next mini Reliance economy in the country. Diversified business model. He has already proven the ability to scale up the business. I'm extremely bullish on Reliance. In 4 years, the stock should double. That's my strong expectation.
This one is coming from Jay Krishnan from Kerala. Kunal has about Jubilant Foodworks above at a price of around 586 rupees per share for the medium term. Wants to know whether he should go ahead and book losses and switch to other stocks, and which is the other stock where he will be able to compensate his loss, Kunal.
So first things, don't believe that you should probably look to sell or exit Jubilant Food. I think it's a good time where you can even probably look to average. In case if you're not okay with putting additional capital over here, which could be an absolutely fine decision, I would suggest something like AB Capital or even Tech Mahindra. I think both these stocks have been looking very attractive to me on the short-term charts. Higher degree that these stocks can rise up by at least 10 to 15% over the very near term.
Okay, Kunal, Vidya is a short-term trader and she's looking for a fresh investment into BSC. She wants to know a right time or a right price rather to enter this counter.
So it looks attractive at current levels, but then just look out for this as playing for a bounce over here. Don't have too much of expectations that the stock would probably bottom out pretty soon. A better chart, two names from a similar category, I would say. Looks attractive. One of them is CDSL. That stock I think seems to have bottomed out closer to this 975,000 mark for itself, and even CAMS at 2,200 to 50 mark. That's the other stock which looks attractive.
Okay, this one is coming. I'll give Kunal a break. Let me take this query to you, Mr. Chokalingam. And Soumitra Joshi has a very simple question. He wants to know what is wrong with the insurance space. He's saying it's been close to 4 to 5 years with no returns in life or even health insurance space. So he wants to know where can the space go exactly. If you're invested in this counter or in this sector, what should your strategy be now?
You have to admit the fact that insurance sector is not going to be a wealth creator in the stock market, because exactly in the last 4 or 5 years, if you have seen, there's so many insurance companies have come. A lot of FDI have flown into the Indian insurance companies, thereby strengthening the competition within the industry. So therefore, you can have only a moderate expectation, but it is better to switch to the private banks like HDFC Bank rather than investing across all insurance companies. Of course, we continue to remain optimistic on HDFC Life, but still I believe HDFC Bank can do better than HDFC Life.
Okay, so that's the take on the insurance sector. But Kunal, coming to you for the next one, Kaushik Mitra is looking for fresh investments in Coal India. And given the move recently in all of these power companies, what's your view for a fresh entry into Coal India?
I think you should definitely look to consider that. The stock seems to have bottomed out at this 215.20 mark. 225 I think is the stock where the stock is trading right now, approximately. So strong indication of bottom out formation. You should definitely consider this as a buy.
All right, with that, let's kickstart with the rapid fire then. And first one coming your way, Kunal. This one's from Rajesh from Indore, and he has Siemens as well as ABB. 30 shares of Siemens at 2,300, ABB at 3,300. Which of these two is better for the short to medium term?
ABB is much better.
Kunal, once again, S. Sri Vidya is in 400 shares of TTK Prestige from a price of 974. What's your view? Hold on to now, average or sell?
Hold on to it as of now.
Okay, Manjunath has 96 shares of Phenolex cables at average price of 415 rupees per share. For the long term, should hold, book profit, or what should be the strategy, Mr. Chokalingam?
Better to hold, because oil might fall and input price might fall, and therefore Phenolex capital may do well.
Okay. Kunal, can you help Sunil with the technical view on United Spirits? He's a long-term investor.
So, particularly don't like the stock in terms of the recent chart patterns. I would suggest an avoid.
Okay, Venkateshan wants to know what will be the range of Bajaj Auto, what would be the exact range where Bajaj Auto will move from here on, Kunal?
So I think the range should be on the downside because of the recent correction for Bajaj Auto. Expectations that the stock may come back towards 3,550, 600 levels.
Mr. Chokalingam, one of the CV plays, that is Electra Greentech, saw great moves, but Srinath is wanting to know the short-term outlook. Your views?
I do not like this company, but particularly the company which have changed the name over years. I do not like. I would avoid.
All right, this one is coming from Dikshita and wants a view on INFA, entry price and target price as well. But she wants this query from you, Mr. Chokalingam. What's your take on this one? IMFA?
Sorry, can you repeat the name?
INFA, IMFA, Indian
Yeah.
Metals and Ferroalloys.
Yes. I have seen the results. It is not a time to add because of the stress in the metal space and therefore demand for the inputs.
Okay, Mr. Chokalingam, Manjinder Singh is holding shares of DCX System from a price of 278. Do you track this one and would you be able to advise him?
Sorry, I have not looked at the fundamentals of this company ever.
All right, with that, we come to the end of the rapid fire as well as the query segment. Thank you so much, Kunal, as well as Mr. Chokalingam, for joining us on the show and waiting patiently while we were addressing a breaking news. Thank you so much for joining us. And viewers, with that, we are out of time on this edition of Buy Now, Sell Now. For viewers whose queries have not been answered today, don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow and try and accommodate as many as possible. For now, it's goodbye from Srishti, myself, and the team that put the show together.